Okay, so we're still working with Python Turtle. Let's look at bringing some other images in. If you look at this code that I have here, again, I've imported my turtle. And this is just a slightly different way of writing it to what I've seen before, where we had from turtle import star. This does the same sort of thing. I've declared a screen, which I've called screen. And notice it's a dot. I'm using the dot screen, the capital S again. I've changed the background colour, the BG colour, American spelling, to blue. I've declared a turtle, a new turtle. I call my turtle Rocket. Okay, so what I want to do then is add my shape. Okay, so I'm adding a shape to the screen, and the shape is this shape here that I found online. So we try to use the .gifs, the GIF, and we're looking for open source transparent images. Okay, so and here notice I haven't given a path name, so I've stored my images in the same folder structure that this code is written. Okay, so just to show you, here's my my code, and where are my rockets? These are all my GIF images are here in the same folder. Okay, and which one is it? It's that one. Okay. Okay, so we give it the name of the file here, or we need to have a path name and the name of the file if it's in a different folder structure. Okay, just a note on that: when you're using images, please give credit to and get your students to give credit to whoever created the assets, which is the images and sounds and backgrounds, etc., that you'll be using. Look for free open source images, and I suppose when you're coding anything for practice or for playing around with like websites and so on, make sure that your own students don't pick up general images that they find online. Just find a nice image, right click, and stick it in their website or stick it in their game. You have to be really, really careful. Now, I had an incident once where a student was practicing website design with me. He picked up a nice picture that he found on Getty Images or something, and next thing he got landed with a bill for $1,500. So we sort of wrote to them and said, listen, I'm a student, I was only practicing, but the website was live, and he was told, sorry, you have to pay the $1,500 or have proceedings brought against you. So really be careful on that, and make sure that you have access, you have the rights, the copyright rights to be able to use that image. So you're searching for free open source GIF and then whatever, like space or whatever, okay? Okay, and you might hammer home that lesson with your kids as well. Okay, so I've got this file, this picture here that I found online, and I've added it to the screen, and then I've said that the shape of my turtle is this shape here that's in this image. Okay, so as I move it around, it's this picture that's moving, not the turtle, not a picture of a turtle or a square or anything. It's actually this little image here. So I moved my pen up, I've set its position, told him to move forward 200 pixels, turn left, 60 degrees, move forward 100 pixels, and then return to home. So let's run that guy again so you can see him. There we go. And there's our first guy. Okay, so the next one I want to use then is this one, is adding 2 pictures to the screen. Okay, so again, same as before, the rocket's there. This time I've added in a UFO, so I found a UFO image, and I've added a UFO, and let's run this guy. Okay, so I've got 2 images on my screen. So I've got my rocket and I've got my UFO. Okay, so the UFO is the shape UFO. I've set pen up, I've changed his position, and I've simply moved him there. And then I told him to move backwards 200 pixels. Okay, so I've got 2 guys on the screen. Okay, so I've got 2 turtles displayed on the screen at the same time. Okay, the next thing I want to do is look at, is this guy. Okay, and what is different to this one? I can't remember now. 1 second. No, here we go. This is it. Right, so now we've got a nice fancy background, okay? And, okay, let's just look here. Okay, so, I mean, this is pretty cool. You can see where this is going. I've got a fabulous background GIF that I found online. Again, it's free, it's open source. I got them all from the same site here, so I'm giving the credits to the same website. And you can see there are my two pictures displayed on that nice background. Okay, so what have I done? Actually, didn't need that background there. That line of code is not needed at all because it's no longer blue. So I've declared my screen. I've declared my rocket as a turtle. My UFO as a turtle. And okay, just 1 second. Sorry, I'd opened the wrong bit of code here. Okay, so this is what I did here. The only difference is I took off the background color on my screen, and I've added in, said that my background is this image. Okay, notice here, I've also added this new line of code here where I've changed the size of my frame to be 1000 by 1000 pixels in size. And then this big pic, the background pic, BG pic, background pic is this space.gif. Okay, we'll just run that again and see that. Okay, and there's my background scale. You can see them moving around there. Okay, just a little bit, just I suppose a hint when you're looking for these, you're trying to find these sort of free GIFs online. Sometimes you'll change your screen size to so many pixels, and you find that the background image doesn't stretch big enough to fit into the background. So you'll have this nice big white screen, and your little image will only fit like a small square in the middle. So it takes a little bit of playing around with to find the right size images that are going to fit into that screen. And and just play around, find an image that you like, and then sort of reuse that image. Okay, so there's my little game now. I made the screen bigger so it wasn't flying off the side of my own screen, and you can see my little images moving there on that screen. Okay, so my code was I had a screen. I then did screen.setup. So notice my screen is my same name. It's the same name each time. So it's screen, screen, screen. This is what I call my screen. If I call my screen, I'd have to name all of these to my screen. Okay, so it's not the same as this screen. That's the class that I'm trying to use, or this object that I'm trying to use. This is what I've called my screen. Previously, I think I called it Win or Windows or something. Okay, so I declared my screen, declared a rocket and a UFO, both of which were turtles. I've added an image to each of those, an image to the rocket, an image to the UFO. I declared a position, and then I moved them. And notice again that I had to add the shape and then said the rocket shape was. Okay, with the screen I had to add the shape and then say the UFO shape is this. Okay. And then the final little video in this, the final part of this video is this next bit of code. And just give me a second now. Which one am I looking at? No. 4. Okay. So we're now looking at sort of making this into, I suppose, more of a game. Okay. Now we're not going to do an awful lot more with this at this stage, but just to show you what we can do here. Okay, so this is all as it was before. I've declared a new variable time up. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. There's my rocket as it was before. My UFO was as it was before. Now what I've tried to do this time is create a loop. Now actually this is really bad programming. Anyway, I've created a while loop. I want something to keep continuing forever. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I want the UFO to just appear on the screen at random locations, and I want it to keep on going forever. So I'm using a while loop, and the purest programmers would shoot me down. So I'm saying while time up is not 0, and if you notice I declared time up at the top as being 1. So I never change it back to 1. I suppose really I could I can't do there. Like, you'd have to change it inside the loop. At some point, I'd have to change it inside the loop. I mean, as you get into game design, you have things that you can set timers, and you'd have a timer that would run, and you'd listen out, and you'd have like listen methods to listen for timers. But it's getting a bit more complicated. I just want to show you some of the basics of really how we sort of start building the game from here. So what I've got sort of a while loop, so while forever. So this isn't never going to stop until I exit and hit the X button. So when I screen exit, then it closes the whole thing down. Now what I do is I'm setting a random position for X and a random position for Y. Okay, so I had to import the random library, which you've done before, and it's in the random range of -500 to 500. So from a -500 to 500. Now the reason why it's that range, so give me an integer for X somewhere in that range. So why is that range? It's that range because my X is 1000 pixels wide. Okay, so my screen is 1000 pixels wide on X, is 1000 pixels wide, 1000 pixels high on Y. And remember 0, 0 in Python, 0, 0 is a center position, most center position. So it's 500, 500 is the center position. So here I'm looking for a random range for X. So somewhere between -500 and +500, generate an integer and stick it in X. Do the same, generate an integer and stick it in Y. Okay, I'm setting my X position to whatever that random number is. Okay, I'm setting my Y position to whatever that random number is there. I then show the turtle. So I set the X, Y position. I then show the UFO. I move forward a little bit and then I hide him. Okay, so let's run that and see it work. Come on. Get down here. There we go. Where's my, can you see the little UFO? He's randomly just appearing on my screen somewhere. Of course, and the 1000 is off the side of my screen here. You can see him sort of randomly appearing, spotting and jumping around. And so an idea is that we'd build these games up, that we'd look for collision perhaps, where we would detect if the XY coordinates of the rocket are the same as the XY coordinates of the UFO, then we have a collision, and then maybe at that collision time we'd play a nice loud bang sound, or we'd generate a score or something like that. Okay, but you can see the sort of general idea of how we're building it up. So what I've also done there actually is, I haven't gone through that, is I've added in an if statement. So I've said that if the rocket, now this is not the UFO is still flying around it. If the .x current position, so .x core, so coordinates rather than current position. So this is .x core is the x coordinates. Okay, and there's a .y core as well. So if .x core is equivalent to 0, move it forward 500 places. Or if the .x core was equal to 1000, move it backwards 500 paces or pixels. Okay, and notice here that it was at 0, 0, so it moved it forward. It moved that direction as a positive. Okay, you could also do a forward -500 also. So what we're doing, what we're just starting to introduce you to there is the idea that, so as we're looking at what's going to happen when we hit the boundary wall. So if my rocket is here and I'm moving, eventually you sort of build this up where you're moving your rocket around the screen. But if it hits the boundary of my screen, I want it then to change position and move back to a different, and go flying in opposite direction. So it would fly this way. If it hit the boundary here, it would turn around and fly that way. And this is how sort of the games of Pong and so on are all sort of built. You're checking the position, the XY position of your sprite or your asset, and then changing it based on that. Okay.